My subject this morning, dancing with God. Someone asked me, well, what does that mean? Well, we've had enough of that this morning, didn't we? Dancing with God. What does that mean, to dance with God? First of all, what do we do when we dance? We stay in step with the music. When you dance, you stay in step with the music. I could read passages in the scriptures about dancing before the Lord. David did it. The whole house of Israel, it says, danced before the Lord. And in fact, they did more than dance, they jumped. It says they jumped, they did, because your whole body participates when you dance. It's not just your feet. It's your legs, your arms, your head, your whole body moves in step with the music, regardless of what the music may be, whether it's slow, whether it's fast, whether it's a hard beat, a slow beat. It doesn't make a difference. The whole body moves with that music. So dancing with God. I like that, dancing with God, because so much of the time we always talk about relationship with God, etc., etc. And relationship with God sounds too much like us. I like dancing with God because it implies movement and action. And really, that's what Jesus was all about. His teachings are not doctrinal. His teachings are nothing but pure action. And what was Dr. Martin Luther King all about? Action. 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 It is action that counts. You can believe a lot of things, but it's your actions that tell the story. It's how you move, how you move, how you move. That is how you move in relationship, how you move in everything you do on your job, with your family. What are your actions? And this is why I said dancing with God. I do have scriptures here because I was thinking about still so many people are fretting about the changes that are occurring in America. You know, we're still, I hear it all the time. People are still upset. I got a psalm for you. Psalm 37, I'm going to read it. Fret not. Fret not. Because of evildoers, here's another one. Neither be envious of workers of iniquity. You know, because it looks like they're prospering. Haven't you heard that? Well, the wicked so-and-so gets away with this and that. Oh, you look so innocent out there this morning. You never say anything like that. Isn't that what we do? It says, fret not because of what you see with your eyes. Or of people you think, look at all. I mean, if you watch the news, you can't help but want to fret. Right? Who's killing who? Who's stealing from whom? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And what the police are doing, and then what's happening to the police. I mean, just listen to it all. If you cannot fret, you're a miracle worker. Because everything is geared to make us fret and get us all worked up where we quit dancing with God. In other words, we get out of step. We get out of step with God. I'll come down in a minute. because I want to read some more here, and I don't want to hold the Bible while I'm reading. It says, oh, this is such a good psalm. For they shall soon wither like grass. Fade away as the green herbs. Now the next verse. Trust in God and do good. There's your action. Trust in God and do good. Dwell in the land. This is what we have to do, right? Dwell in the land and seek after faithfulness. Trust in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. I'm going to say that again. What is it? Trust in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Say it with me. Trust in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Oh, but you got to quit fretting. Commit your way. Don't you see? You're beginning to dance with God. You see how the steps are? You're starting to dance with God. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he will bring it to pass. What? The desires of your heart. Say it with me. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him. And he will bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your judgment as the noonday. And then I'm going to jump over to one other verse. If I can find it. I didn't mark it. Anyway, he talks about he will direct your steps. Direct your steps. Dancing with God. Do not fret. When we fret, we quit dancing. Right? If we could only dance our way. I mean, stop about it. The minute we get into trouble, our minds go crazy. Right? And so do our emotions. Stop right then and there. How do we dance with God? What are the ways to dance with God? How do we keep in step with God? Okay, first of all, I got to talk about this word God. I wish you could be in my Tuesday night class. Some of you can't because you're working and stuff like that. But I've started in Genesis, and I'm revealing things that I've kept back for a long time. And I'm making... In fact, some of the ministerial students who already had Genesis under me are there, and they can tell you I'm bringing out things that I've kept. And one of the things is God. You know, we say the word God in English. That's English, God. And it simply comes from the idea of good when we say God. Good. But when you're reading Scripture, where we get this from, all of us are influenced by Scripture. And as I told them Tuesday night, there's a saying we have in Italian. That we say in Italian all the time. When we pick up the Bible, we are not reading the Bible. I'm not quoting what the Italians say. I'll tell you in a minute. When we pick up the Bible, we're reading an interpretation of the Bible. In other words, you can't help it. The moment you go from one language to another, you lose something. You do. You can't help it. You will lose it. So there's a saying we have in Italian. We say, traduttore e traditore. You don't get it. Traditore means translator. E is traditore. Translator is a traitor. Translator is a traitor. Why? Because you cannot bring the full impact of that word in that other language into English. Oh, I can say chair, I can say floor, I can say that doesn't matter. But then when you say floor, what kind of floor? When they said floor in the Bible, what did they mean by floor? Like we talk about the Lord's table. Well, they had no table. Yet we read table. Well, when you say table, and when we bring it into English, table, when they had the Lord's Supper, table, and of course, Leonardo da Vinci, in Italian, gave us that, Jesus and the 12 disciples, that's 13 Near Eastern men that turned out to look like 13 good-looking Italians. And not the real picture. And so we see this table and we see them all looking at Jesus. Is it I? Is it I? No. They were on the floor. We demonstrated it here several times where I had all the men that came and participated sit in a circle. The table means a cloth spread. But you see what happens when you translate? Let me tell you, that's what's happened with the scriptures. This is why we observe God. Most people observe God through doctrines and dogmas when it never was meant to be that way. That's what made Jesus so powerful. He didn't have a doctrine. He didn't have a dogma. What he talked about was love, peace, joy, healing, prosperity. This is what Jesus was about. He was about life. So when we talk about dancing with God, we're not talking about dancing with correct dogma and doctrine or correct interpretation. We're dealing with dancing with love, peace, joy, harmony, understanding, light. This is what God is. Life, 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 life. You dance with life. You dance with something that's real within inside of yourself. It's all a part of you. So we get to this word God. The minute I brought it into English, I've lost it. I've lost it. In Hebrew, the word that they use is A-L, Aleph Lamed, and it's pronounced El. El. And in Aramaic, we say the same thing. It's spelled the same way, just pronounce it different. We say El. Same thing. Where did we get this? Where did the Hebrews get this? Well, you're going to be shocked when I tell you this. Because in the land of Canaan, you're all familiar with Canaan, aren't you? In the land of Canaan, they had gods and goddesses. And the principal god in the land of Canaan was El. That was his name, El. And when they used Elohim or Elohim, that meant that Elohim had children. Because this God had wives, 2 of them. This is so pagan. Well, that's all they had. What do you think all of our stories come from? They come from the human mind and heart. They come from us. The story of the gods and goddesses come from us. And when the Bible was written, what happened is there was a transformation in this group of people known as Hebrews. And what they did is they transformed and saw beyond gods and goddesses. And they saw the one principle and the one God that was in all humanity, that united all of humanity to make us one. And really, that's what it's all about. To show that what's in me is in you. And it's in anyone. I don't care. I'm going to say something that's really terrible now. If someone is even a murderer, there is God in him. Because the moment he turns and repents, he finds the power and the love of God in his body and in his mind and in his soul and in his emotions. I'm not sanctioning evil. You know that. I'm not doing that. What I'm just trying to show you is that no one is cut off from God. Who cuts us off? We cut ourselves off from the living, powerful presence we call God. It is something that is beyond us. We were born with it. Everyone is born with it. But some people were able to come into a greater manifestation of it. Right? And what does manifest mean? You know, that's from Latin. See what I mean? We borrow words all the time. Manifest means we make it at hand. Mani, M-A-N-I. Mani is Latin for hand. But in the Aramaic, I wish I had time to teach you about the Garden of Eden. What if I tell you the woman didn't come out from a rib? You had to come to my class on Tuesday night. That's not translated correctly. You want me to tell you, don't you? That word that we use for rib means the side. What it says is he took one of the sides, which means that the clay image that was made wasn't male or female, it was both. The name Adam wasn't a name. We make Adam a proper name, which we use today. You know, Adam so-and-so and Adam this and Adam that. And really, we don't say it right. It's Adamah, not Adam. Adamah, which means groundling, earthling. In other words, it made a clay figure. And we're not made from the dust of the earth. The word dust is not correct there. That's English. You see what I mean? The problem is English because we're thinking English. We're not dust. Oof. I don't know how much more I should be telling you here. But I'm telling you, we fret enough of what we produce out in the world there. It's time we get the correct vision and understanding of God and who and what we really are and how God sees us, not how we think God sees us. There's a big difference because we see it in the way we were taught, either Baptist, Methodist, right? I was brought up Roman Catholic, so I thought of God as an old man. I did. But I wasn't too far wrong. I'll tell you why. Because I always pictured him with a long beard, a long white beard sitting on a throne. Well, in the land of Canaan, they dug up the statue of El. And it was an old man with a long beard. That's where we get that from. Because of that. But we know God is not that. Those are pictures, see. We know God is spirit. Ruha I love the way that sounds. Ruha. And you are Ruha. You are also Ruha. Without Ruha, you couldn't move. You couldn't do anything. You need the breath. You need all that. So Adam, and even in the first chapter of Genesis, where it says, and God said, let us make man. Again, it's a problem there. That means the groundling, not the male. He didn't say, let us make a male, and then said, let us make a male and female. You miss it. Where we don't, again, this is a problem in translation. When it says, so God created he him. Created he him. Well, what are we going to think the minute we see him? Male, right? And then the next phrase, as soon as it says him, it says, male, female, made he them. Okay. Problem, Hebrew coming into English. Aramaic coming into English. Because the proper way, let me tell you how I would translate it, to really give you what the Hebrew and Aramaic is saying. So God created he it. Why? Because it is neutral. It is neither. You're not saying male nor female. It's the next verse that tells you. Male, female. In other words, because you see, in Aramaic and Hebrew, they do not have neuter at all. Nothing neuter. Every word, everything has to be either masculine or feminine. Everything. In English, we can do that. We can take it away from the masculine or feminine, and we have. But in Aramaic and Hebrew, you can't. That's why it says, created he him. But it should be it, because there is no distinction yet. So it says, male, female made he them. And they shall rule over, not the man, not just the woman, but they shall rule over the birds of the air and over the, I like the Aramaic, winged creatures of the sky, and over the land beasts and everything. They, meaning the male, female, have the absolute equality in God, in truth, in joy, in harmony. There is absolutely no difference. The difference occurs physically and, in the hormones and everything else. I mean, thank God, but that has to do with the Adam and Eve story. I didn't get into that. But we don't understand that, because when he created Adam, when we're reading I guess I'm going to have to tell. I didn't intend to get into this. When we get into because I got to teach it on Tuesday night. When we get into the Adam and Eve story, Adam is still the singular being. It's still not a name. It's a groundling. It's an it. I'm talking about Adam and Eve now. You got to separate it from the first chapter. We're in the second and third chapters. And God said, it's not good for man to be alone. He needs a helper. That word helper. Okay, you women. Better translation is counterpart. Counterpart. Okay, where we go from here? Well, he said, let's see who's a good counterpart to this being. Now remember, this being that they're calling Adam is male and female. And so, he brings them in there. He brings the animals. And so he names all the animals. God said, this isn't good. You can realize this is a story. I hope you realize that. God didn't do any of this stuff. Why would it take God 6 days, to create anything? So he gets this man. He says, no, the animals won't do. So he puts him to sleep. And he says he takes, the way it's translated, he takes one of his ribs. No, one of his sides. One of his sides. And to prove it to you, I'll prove it to you with the next verse. Because when Adam gets her, right? He says to her, bone of my bone, right? And flesh of my flesh. So you see, it wasn't a rib. It was the whole human being. Right. In other words, a gender split. The original Adam was genderless. But when he went to sleep, then Eve come out. In other words, equality. Equality. Oh my God. And that's what humanity is, and we haven't come to it. We haven't come to a realization that we are all equal. I need you. I need you. You need me. You need me. And I need you. What do we care? Just like flowers. We don't say, oh, look at that. I like all kinds of flowers. Red, green, white, right? And a lot of people like roses. I only like a rose if you clean the stem. Otherwise, you... And let me tell you, God never, ever, ever cursed human beings. And the word curse is wrong. It says put a curse. God put a curse on the ground. God put a curse on the serpent. But I'm talking about the story now. But God never put a curse on Adam or Eve. In fact, his name really didn't become Adam until the 4th chapter, where it says, and Adam knew Eve, which means Adam had a relationship with Eve. Now we got it. That's his name now. It becomes a personal name. Up until that time, it isn't. It's just the groundling. Now we can actually say Adam. So what are we saying? Woman was never cursed. Oh, I don't have time to go into those things when he talks to the woman. Oh, I'm going to do it anyway. He said, of all the trees you may eat, but of this one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and that, again, good and evil is a bad trend, and I've told you this before. It simply means the tree of the pros and cons. In other words, it's a tree that makes your eyes open that you can see both sides of everything. Got it? So you can call it the mysterious tree of the knowledge of everything. That's what it means. That's exactly what it means. Didn't mean he opened up evil. It means you're going to be like God now, because the serpent was not lying to Eve. Uh-oh. Oh, now I got to explain the serpent. The serpent represents wisdom. What he is trying to do is get them to wake up and realize there's more than just the things that the way they see. Because right now, they were like animals. Animals do not have the knowledge of everything, right? They don't. Well, they were like animals. And now, but to eat of that tree, you would be like God. And even God says so. He says he put them out of the park. And by the way, we always translate it as garden, but it's a park. A park. Paradisa. That's how we say it in Aramaic. Paradisa. Which means only your elite people had and you've seen it even in movies, where only your kings and your special people who have money and all that have what we call a garden, but it was and it was surrounded by a wall. Isn't that what it says? Surrounded by a wall. It doesn't say wall, though. It says garden, the way we translate it, but it's park. And it had a wall. That's why the entrance was guarded. You only have an entrance when you have a wall. The entrance was guarded, so they couldn't get back in and eat of the tree of life and live forever in this condition of knowing everything. Well, I like this, but then I see this wrong with it, and I see that, and that's knowledge. That's what we got. But now I'm really going to get in trouble. God knows us. Uh-oh. And I set up a tree and tell you, don't touch it. Just like wet paint. Do not touch wet paint. Oh, I wonder if it is. The minute I say you can't have this, oh, it's a magnet that tells me, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Which means God actually wanted us to eat of that tree, to open up wisdom in us so we wouldn't hurt ourselves, so we know how to live in this world and live peacefully and wonderfully. We'd have to know good and evil. Do you get it? God purposely set up that tree and sent that serpent. How come God didn't know what the serpent was doing? Right? You see what I'm saying? I mean, you're not going to learn this in Sunday school. Right? They won't teach it in churches either. They want to keep us evil. We're born in sin and this had nothing to do with sin. It had to do with enlightenment and understanding so we could live well here on the earth. And the only thing the first sin in the Bible is murder, when Cain killed his brother Havel. And we say Abel. Okay, that's the first sin. There was no sin handed down through us through having relationships. No sin. There is no child born on the face of this earth that is born in sin and conceived in iniquity. God said, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. I can see God, typically Semitic. Fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. God, this is what it means to dance with God. What kind of a God are you dancing with? What kind of a God are you dancing with? That's important. What kind of image do you have of God? But don't you see how we've gotten incorrect images? Did you know they never taught the Adam and Eve story as the promotion of sin? That didn't start until the 1st century BCE, when that idea was first introduced. Then in Christianity, leave it to us. We made it even worse. We even gave it a new name, calling it original sin. No, the real thing that the story is really telling is when you disobey what God had told you, you get into trouble. You lose the park. You lose paradise. Because you're no longer dancing with God. You're dancing to your own tune. You're not dancing to truth. You're not dancing to principle. You're not dancing to... And the knowledge of good and evil was meant for us so we could live well and not hurt ourselves. What is it you teach a baby right off from the beginning? When there's something hot on the stove and there's fire there. Is fire good? Yes, fire's good. But what do you teach the child? because it hasn't awakened. The consciousness hasn't awakened to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You have to teach that to the child. And the only way sometimes you have to do it is grab his hand and and he can feel the heat and danger. He'll know the danger then, right? We try to do everything to keep children out of danger because they do not see the pros and cons of life that they're facing. They do not see the pros and cons in their home, in the bedroom, in the living room, in the kitchen. They don't. They have to be taught, right? That's why you lock up the cupboards and all different things like that, because a child will get right in there and crawl in there. And that's why you got to keep certain things away, because a child will go in there, like they're taking the soap and stuff like that, thinking it's candy, because they haven't awakened to the knowledge. You see, it's the use of that word evil. See what I did when I brought it into English? The minute I said evil, people misunderstand it. When I say pros and cons, you got it. It's the knowledge of the pros and cons. And we've been living under, you'd be surprised how much your Bible learning from when you were in Sunday school is still in you, in your consciousness. And it takes a constant bathing of light and people who see and understand the light to bring that out and to bring it out and smother it in light and give it bright. Now you can stand up and say, I'm glad I'm a child of God. Don't fret. Don't fret. Trust in God. We've got the best on our side. If God be for us, who can be against us? That's what's in you. That's what's a part of you. I don't care who's listening to me, where you are. I don't care whether you're Christian, Buddhist, or Islam, or whatever you are. Realize that we are a part of that God, and God is a good God. God made no mistakes when he made you and me. Yes. From your heart, this is what you are.